Hey guys, Dave here, DMAC Customs, in the garage on the YouTube, Area 51, Frankenbootlid from the outside this time. So bodywork, I'm going to have a crack at sort of trying to make that into some sort of smoothish thing rather than the surgery scarred up bootlid that it is at present. Okay, so let's get into it. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Chuck a comment down and below in the comments section. Let us know where you're from and what you're working on, if you're working on anything, or if you're just here to follow the progress on the old Area 51. But yeah, do that. Now let's get into it. Okay, over here, pay attention. First thing I'm going to do on the bootlid is kind of give it a bit of a scuff up with some 150, just to kind of give it a bit of a key for the old filler and stuff to fit to, stick to I should say. A bit of that graphite overspray stuff on here, but there's a little upward ding here. I've got to find those and knock those down too before I go too far. So yeah, let's get it ready to do what we got to do. Okay, found that high spot. I kept seeing it in the light. Just right there. It's just, I don't know why, it must have been probably me banging and crashing around when I was doing the underside of the frame on this. But yeah, I just got to give this a bit of a scuff. It'll get a full sand during this process, I imagine. This is where most of my body filler ends up, back in here. Okay, I've just got to put a new bag in the old R2 here, just to try and stop this from happening. The other bag actually had a tear in it, so it was like basically just filled the bloody thing up full of dust anyway. So just get this done, clean up this mess, and then we'll get back into that. Okay? Right, just wanted to knock that down. Just wanted to knock that little thing down. It's like something's knocked it from the underside at some point. I don't know whether I did it or whether it's just from some earlier part in this life of this little wagon. So I should need to sand that a bit better. I'm going to mix up some new tech and spread some of that around on these welds just to kind of seal them up with that epoxy kind of fiberglassy kind of vibe, you know what I'm saying? Right, we're going to do that. Just got to get that a little bit better first. Just getting into the bits that I didn't do properly before, because I was kind of just, you know, showing off for the camera, and I actually was not doing the job properly, you know, proper like. But I just want to get into all these and just, I don't know, just feel like it needs a bit of that so it'll stick. You still feel a bit of something there, but I think once the old high build goes on there, that'll take care of that. Alright, new battery. Okay, so the reason I use like a fiberglassy type filler over the top of my welds is because, like you can see here, there's, you know, pinholes and stuff, and I try to chase the pinholes around when I do the repairs or, you know, modifications or whatever, but you don't always get them, you know. So my theory is, now it's not my theory actually, I kind of seen another guy that had way more clues than me doing this kind of process on his restoration work, so I just kind of figured I'll do the same, you know, because like on this bootlid, for example, there's you know, bits inside the frame that I couldn't get in behind very well. So if any of these pinholes go all the way through, theory being that the epoxy primer will seal it to a point, you know, like plug up those holes and have those kind of sealing properties that you want. And the fiberglass, this is kind of like an epoxy fiberglass type thing. Well, this new tech specifically is sort of designed for this sort of stuff. They reckon you can even fill rust holes anyway with it, but yeah, the theory being that okay. Yeah, as I was saying before the compressor kicked in, which it's probably going to do again if I don't shut it off, the reason I use this stuff, this new tech space age repairer, it looks really dated with their graphics because it's been around for quite a while. If you've watched some of the other videos, when I started on the doors, I was using just a normal kind of fiberglass filler, like, you know, 2-part filler, and that works. Don't get me wrong, but it's a little bit harder to spread and move around. And my main goal is not to be filling dents and stuff with it, but to be filling pinholes and shit. Because if I get, you know, when I've welded stuff in here, you get the odd like pinhole. I don't think they go all the way through all the time, but sometimes they might. So if you just put like normal body filler over the top, which is what we call porous, which means it soaks up water, whereas this stuff doesn't. It's a bit more resistant to moisture, I think. Don't quote me on that, but this is, you know, what I've been led to believe. So if I sand like most of that off, it's still going to be in the pinholes, and it's got to plug them up from the top, along with the epoxy primer, plugging those pinholes up from the top. So anywhere where I couldn't get to underneath is not going to be drawing, you know, like the wick effect, you know, like a candle wick effect, drawing moisture through the back of that pinhole and into just normal body filler. It's going to get stopped at that epoxy and at that kind of fiberglassy stage. You know what I'm saying? Some people put a fiberglass resin into it and thin it out a bit more, so it smooths out a little bit easier, so you don't end up looking like that. Mind you, there's not much on there. There won't take much sanding to get off. Famous last words. And yeah, so they kind of do that to kind of thin it out to do the same sort of thing. But like I say, I'm not trying to fill dents with that. although you can, it's just a bit harder to work than normal body filler. You probably want to be using DAs and things like that. But yeah, that's why I do that over the top of my welds. Basically, it's another, hopefully prevent moisture getting sucked up from the inside of any of those pinholes that may go all the way through and getting into the back of the steel and that, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's the other argument for putting epoxy down before your body work. Some people, you know, if it's just dense, it's not going to make that much of a difference, but it could still. But if it's got, like, you know, welds or, you know, potential for moisture to come from the backside and work its way through into, you know, like if that was a pinhole there and moisture got down and I had just normal body filler, and then this was all raw steel, that could suck that moisture through that pinhole and get into it that way. That's another reason why I go and seam seal all the back of my welds as well. Just get into it as much as you can to try and seal that steel up so moisture can't get at it. That's my thinking anyway, and that's kind of, it's worked for me so far. And I've owned cars that I've worked on for, you know, my Plymouth, I had did all the rust work on that and had that car driving on the road for 9 years and none of it blew out, so it works for me. I'm not saying it's the only way, it's just my way. Okay, so I'm gonna wait for that to go off now and do some sanding. Alright, so it's kind of not fully cured, but I'm just gonna go and giving a bit of a whiz over with some 80 grit, kind of just without the vacuum sort of thing, just to kind of take all the highs of this out. I'm not going to try and sand this flush because there's going to be a lot of body filler going in over the top of it anyway to try and smooth this mamma jamma out, trust me. So yeah, I'll just carry on doing that, just feather out my scruffy marks a bit. I just use a bit of kind of paper that I've already used up on body filler, just because it gums it up when it's at this kind of slightly gooey stage, rather than getting a nice new bit of paper and having it gum up in about 30 seconds. This will just be just to take that gooiness off. I don't know a better way of describing it. There's probably a technical term for that, but I don't know what it is. Like I said before, I'm not a body man. I'm just making this shit up as I go along with some experience of my own, but no formal training or information as such. You know what I mean? Yeah? I'm just a backyarder. Alright, I'll carry on and get this done, then we can start mixing up some poo, or bog as we refer to it here in New Zealand. Alright, figured I might, well, I am gonna run a little bit of masking around this sort of boot lip, you know, like this, just because I'm bound to dump some filler into here when I don't want to. It'll be a pain to kind of clean it out, you know what I mean? So I had this idea to do that, so hopefully it'll minimise the amount of crap that drops into places I don't really want it, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. When you're rough, you're rough. Yeah, just like a professional. It would be hard to tell the difference between a professional job and my job. I'm just kidding. I'm not claiming to be a professional in any way, okay? But that'll do us, right? Mix up some bog and start smearing it around. Okay, so it looks like a lot, and I guess it is, but knowing me, I'll sand most of it off in the first sand. But yeah, I just kind of thought I'd load it up and just kind of get us kind of in there to start with, you know what I mean? So that's the first skim, so I'll let that all kind of cure up a bit before I sort of attack it. So I'll go and find something else to do to entertain myself in the meantime. Okay, so first skim kind of roughed in. I'm kind of fighting every urge I have to keep sanding, but I know there's definitely low spots, as you can see here, there and everywhere. So I'm gonna give it another skim now before I go and sand too far and have to put heaps more in, if you know what I mean. So I'll do that, mix up some more bog and get into it. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. Down here, it's probably a little high through that area there, but low there obviously, so I'll build that centre bit up, obviously where the old boot lock was, and do something with that edge. As you can see, I've propped it up so I can kind of get to the edges a little bit better without kind of hooking into the rear quarters. There's low spots there, through there. I haven't gone mad sanding that because I know it's low there and there, so we'll just give it another skim, see what happens. I probably should scuff that low stuff though, eh? Yeah, I'll do that and then we'll skim it. Okay, so second skim ended up being a little bit more over the whole thing than I was anticipating, but that's alright. Hopefully I'll get it pretty close with this one. Mixed up a batch, ran out, so I had to come back in and do a bit more there, but I'll let that kind of go off quite a bit more. I know it's harder sanding, but yeah, I don't want to be gumming up the paper and kind of dragging and dealing with that kind of rubbish. Yeah, so I'll just go watch some bog dry now. It's not dry yet. Anyway, so how's your week been? All good? Waiting. This is the bit I hate. I get so impatient. I'd rather have... That's kind of why I kind of end up jumping around all over the place. I'm trying not to do that though. I'm trying to be patient and just do kind of one thing at a time. Do it. Take my time. Try to get it right. Whereas... yeah, instinctively I'm wanting to go and start laying some bog into here to, while that's drying, while that's drying I'm doing that, and then while I'm doing that, that's drying, and you know what I'm saying, and I know that makes kind of more practical sense, but I'll probably end up with the kind of one bit ends up way too hard, and you don't get enough, you don't get to it early enough, like the fillers and stuff like that, and it goes like super hard. But yeah. But yeah, I'll try not to do that this time, but we'll just be patient. I'll go and have a drink of water or something. Okay, so we've been sanding. Yeah? And kind of got it like probably 98% of the way there, but then I kind of sanded a flat spot in down here, and then I had a couple of high spots which I knocked down, which made them into low spots. So I've just done a little like super quick skim on those only. Not really ideal because now I'll probably end up sanding around those and kind of, yeah, you know what I'm saying, you kind of end up sanding stuff out of places that you don't want to sand stuff out of places, you know. I was having trouble with my blocks, kind of getting, because we've got curves going this way and then that way, and it's all happening at the same time, and it's tricky, man. Like, tricky. Like, you think, oh, I'll use that curvy face block, and then you're kind of sanding, you know, with the shape there, but then by the time you get here, you start digging a hole. So you want to be going into something this way and that way, and it's tricky, it's tricky, it's tricky. That's what I'm trying to say. But we're getting there, I think. We're at the, I was tempted to just chuck this into epoxy as it sits now, and just pour it on there and let the epoxy kind of like flow it out a little bit and see whether that was enough. But then I thought, nah, I'll a couple of little bits, I'll just do those, and I'll probably regret it, but we'll that's where we're at. But we might not get much more done today because it's getting late and it's going to be like food time soon. So yeah, but we're getting there. We're starting to, it's hard to tell until we get some all one color in that again, but like, it's hard to know whether I've got both sides the same. Some guys are just super good and super fast at this sort of thing, but this has been a bit of a tricky. My word of the day, tricky. It's tricky. It's been a bit tricky, I admit that, and I admit that I'm not the greatest at doing this, and I admit that I end up sanding too much off, and I admit that I probably would have been heaps easier if I got the sheet metal work kind of tighter before I started doing this stuff, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't, so we've got to live with it. Anyway, carry on. Okay, so that's where I'm going to leave it today. Sanded back those little touch-ups, but yeah, it's like 97.2% there now. I think I'm really just going to have to put some paint on there. I can still feel some stuff, but it's hard to tell whether it's high or low. I need to kind of see a bit of gloss on it, so I'm going to get some more epoxy onto that, and I'll wet it up, so hopefully I can kind of see what's going on, see where my highs and lows are, and then take it from there. Okay, so till tomorrow and maybe the next day. Hey guys, so Dave here. Well, if you got this far in the video, you probably figured that out already. I said it at the beginning. Couple of days later, I did my usual, sanded a flat spot into both the corners, both this area here. So I did another little skim there, and so hopefully I can get in there and sand those again without sanding a flat spot in there. But yeah, so let's get into that. Check it out. Look. So, Puddin's Fab Shop t-shirts. Now I'm in New Zealand and Puddin doesn't ship overseas, so I used the U-Shop, which is a New Zealand Post service, to get a couple of t-shirts. So, and I was just showing them off because I possibly am the only person in New Zealand with Puddin's Fab Shop shirts. So if you don't know who Puddin is from Puddin's Fab Shop, I feel like I've said that about 400 times. It's just like a little YouTube channel that I follow, and I think I kind of wanted to support it, so I bought a couple of his shirts all the way, shipped them all the way over here. Mum didn't raise no punk. But yeah, anyway, go and have a look at Puddin stuff, but let's get into doing some sanding. we're there, nearly there. I'm trying to decide whether high build primer will flow it out the rest of the way. It's just about there now. Another Mike gave me a tip about using white shop rags under my hand. I haven't got any yet. That was only this morning that I got that tip, so yeah, I'll try and track some down and then try that little trick. Mike said in the comments that, you know, you kind of put it between your hand and the panel, and you can kind of run it up, and it kind of helps you feel your highs and lows and stuff like that. On this, I haven't used any what do you call it, shadow coat stuff, because I haven't really got the blocks to get these weird super subtle compound curves. I'm almost looking forward to doing this stuff more because it's tighter and whatnot, whereas these curves are just so mellow that it's tricky to get that apex, that I don't know what you call it, this area where it kind of goes from kind of being concave to convex, and but it's nearly there, man. Oh boy, she's close. I think I'll leave that for tonight, and I'll come out tomorrow and I'll probably find all the things that I've done wrong with it, fresh eyes, fresh hands, and then we'll move on from there. So another Mike gave us a tip this morning on commented on video that I uploaded yesterday, I think it was, about using a white clean sort of shop rag to help find things. I haven't got any white clean shop rags at the moment, so I haven't been doing that little tip yet, so I'll have to track some down and try that out and see if that kind of helps me find those highs and lows, because I'm gonna need all the help I can get, like smoothing out these rear quarters. And it's just finding those, you know, get it 90% of the way there, and then finding those last little bits are the bits that hang me up, and then I end up over sanding and going too deep on things and putting flat spots in these freaky concave converting to convex curves and stuff. But I think we're getting there. We're this close, I think. So we might just throw some primer on it and see what it looks like. Okay, cool. Till tomorrow, the next day, or whenever. Okay, so next day, I just came back in here with some fresh eyes and kind of found a couple of little high spots in that, so I've just kind of worked those. Like I've already said this in this video, I'm like 98% sure I'm kind of pretty close. That sounded like about as uncertain as a, I don't know, uncertain person. And I say that because whenever I've done this in the past and I think, yeah man, that's on point, I always find something later on that I've missed, a high spot or a gouge or a sanding mark or whatever. There is a couple of pinholes in the bog up on here, but I'm not gonna put more normal bog on those. I'll get those with a bit of glaze after the epoxy's gone on, because I just don't want to put more bog on there and then risk sanding through, because this is the bit that I had the most trouble with. I'd sanded a big flat spot into it, but yeah, we've got a couple of little pinholes in there and probably some 80 grip marks and whatnot, but hopefully I'll catch all that later on in the process, sort of thing. Like, I don't want to just keep sanding because I'll take too much material off it again, and I think I'm pretty good now, so I want to kind of seal this up, get it into epoxy like I did on the roof. But before I do that, I'm going to have to do some masking, because I've got to protect what I've got going on under here. So I've always kind of planned to sort of mask back to this area here, because I knew I'd sort of mucky it up, and I know it's a weird order to do things in, but it's the order I wanted to do it in, because at the time my logical brain was telling me to do that. It was really just the lazy bastard in me didn't want to have to take the boot lid on and off and on and off, just do the bodywork on, to kind of put it on and leave it on. What was that? No. So yeah, do some masking. Yeah, cool. Should really clean up, but I'll do some masking first. All right. Hey guys. Next day it is actually. I can't remember what I yabbered on about. I think I told you I was pretty happy with where this is sitting at the moment. And then I got to masking, which is where as far as I got last night, and then I stopped. So tonight I'm just gonna shoot a little bit of epoxy onto this. And well, you know, the reason I have it propped up like this, and this bodgy masking process here, and why I masked all up underneath, is because I sanded off these edges and stuff. So I just want to get a little bit of epoxy back on those edges and seal this thing up and move on to the next thing. Yeah, okay, so I'll chuck some overalls on and mix up some paint and lay it onto that. Alrighty, so ignore all the sanding marks and the bits of shit in that have landed in that epoxy primer, but it's sealed up. It'll get sanded and sanded and sanded some more. But what I was hoping to achieve, I think I've achieved, aside from all the pinholes and sanding marks and stuff, I've got the shape kind of where I want it. I think it's kind of hard to see. There's my knees. But yeah, ignore all the other garbage that's gone on in here. I must be not mixing my bog up correctly, because I got a lot of pinholes in that last kind of skim. I don't know what I did wrong. Probably just not paying attention to what I was doing, is in a hurry or stressing, a bit out of sorts. Ultimately, Aside from that, I'm pretty happy with where the shape of the deck lid, the old Frankenbootlid, Franken trunk lid, whatever you want to call it, is has shaped up as. So that's where we're going to leave the trunk lid now that it's had a little bit of plastic surgery for now. And so once we get into the high build, much like the roof, hopefully we'll be able to start, you know, dialing in, getting rid of all the pinholes and those little blemishes and stuff like that. Yeah, so I'm not sure what we'll do next. Probably you know, may come into one of these quarters. I do have a thing that I want to take care of, which means cutting some steel out this area here. This is where that seam is, where this patch panel had been welded on, and then this looks like it's all blown apart. I did think about just getting in there with a belt snapper 1000, trying to take that back, but I think I will just thin shit out. So what I might do is open a can of worms and make a little piece, cut it out and weld it in, hopefully make it nicer. So that's what we've got to do when we get onto this side. Well, one of the things, there's a couple of other things to take care of. It is what it is. We'll get there eventually, hopefully, without making it too thick, not too much of a bogged up heap of shit. Same over this side. I don't have to do a redo down here, but this side here was welded on by someone else, and it all has kind of puckered and pulled in, so there's gonna be a bit of filling going on in there. So hopefully a stone doesn't hit it and knock it all out in one go. But yeah, you know what I'm saying. But it's getting there. We'll leave this to go off before I unmask it. I did notice the reason I masked up the underside was so I didn't get any overspray in there, and it's just as I went whoosh, I noticed that my masking tape had come unstuck, and there is a bit of overspray now on the inside of the trunk lid, and I'm gonna have to probably wet sand that off and give it a bit of a polish, which I was trying to avoid doing because that's a, you know, awkward job. Which the masking tape, I don't know if you've got any recommendations for good brands of masking tape. This stuff here is called number 8 or some shit. It's Norton, I think. I have trouble getting it to stick to itself sometimes, and you know, you put a thing down and put another thing down, and then just the weight of the masking just unmasks it. It's a pain in the ass. So by the time you actually get around to painting, it's like it's come undone. But I don't know, maybe my surfaces are too rough or something. I don't know, maybe I'm too rough or don't push it down hard enough, but I'm more paranoid about it pulling paint and primer and that off if I, you know, get tape that's too grunty, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, that's where we'll leave this video on the old Franken trunk lid. That's it for now. I think, you know, obviously there's sanding marks and there's those holes in there that I pointed out earlier on that I just did not want to try and refill with normal bog. I want to make sure, I want to kind of get a bit of, you know, sealed up, and then I'll do those with a little bit of glaze, I think, and that way I can kind of see better that I'm not sanding into my curve, because it took me ages to get that curve on both of those somewhat nice and somewhat the same. But yeah, anyway, I keep going on explaining all my shortcomings and stuff, but that's where we're going to leave this video at DMAC Customs on the YouTube, on the Area 51, the Franken trunk lid. If you haven't done so already, subscribe and like, share, comment. If you're new to the channel, chuck a comment down below, let us know where you're from, and if you're working on something, let us know what you're working on. It's always kind of cool to know. And if you're struggling, keep at it. If you're about to start something, don't know how to do it, There's more information out there now than ever, some good, some bad, but yeah, just get at it, get out in there and do something, have a play with the project. It's only metal, it's only paint, well, it's money, but you know, it's something to do, you know, that isn't, at the moment we've got an election coming up in a couple of days, so it ain't politics, that's for sure. So, till next time, take it easy and peace. Subscribe, yeah. New subscribers, thanks for coming on board. See you next time.